Hey there, welcome to Sequentially Yours, initially mine. This is a show where we look over this week's number ones and tell you which ones look exactly the way they are and which ones look exactly the way they are. Alright, so this week was not a big week, and I think you all know why. I mean, it was a big week for me. The reason why this is coming out so late is that MegaCon was this week here in Orlando, and I was out talking to creators and trying to get some content for you guys to make this a better show. So, yeah, this is coming out a little bit late, but as far as actual books coming out, well, we talked about Steve Rogers' Captain America in what's up, an editorial over here. We can discuss that another time. That's not what we're discussing here. What we are discussing are the number ones for this week. And we don't have that many because, again, I think you all know why they didn't really come out with a lot this week. For some reason, a lot of other publishers didn't want to compete this week. Alright, so let's see what is there, though. This shouldn't take very long. Alright, from Devil's Due, First Comics, we have Squarriors. Squarriors basically tells the story of an event of some sort that not only got rid of all the humans, but also suddenly made other animals sentient, for lack of a better term. One thing I will start by saying is that the art and the coloring on this is amazing. Ashley Witter did both, actually. Art, letters, and colors by Ashley Witter. And you know what? It is really spectacular. Some of the panels in this are really just gorgeously laid out. Which is why I hate to say that Maxco? Maxco. I as per usual, I apologize for my pronunciation, Mr. Maxco. Whatever, I apologize for how I'm pronouncing your name. I'm really not trying to do it poorly. I just don't know how to. Well, for a first issue, this is really, really, really complicated. Really complicated. I am not kidding. In the sense that it just throws jargon at you time and time again. The Tinkin and the what else was there? I can't. That's the other problems that you have trouble holding on to it. See here, the Tinkin and the Maw and the Amoni and all of these different characters who we have no idea how they're connected to one another, and then some follow the path of blood, some follow the path of will. They don't explain what any of this is. I can guess, but I felt so bogged down by all of this terminology that I was having trouble connecting with or identifying any of the characters. I know that certain characters are supposed to be important, and we've seen them be mentioned as important, but when I actually saw them, I couldn't tell who they were or who they were connected to because there was so much. And you know what? This thing even has, what I just flipped to here, was it has a chart in the back. See that? I'll bring it a little bit closer. See that? There is a chart here. There is a chart to explain everything, and I still don't get it. If your mythology is that complicated, you have to start small and build on it. It seems that the main characters are from the Tinkin, which I'm guessing is a tribe of some sort. Or at least the characters we're supposed to are protagonists, not necessarily the main characters, since they didn't come in until more than halfway through the book, and were just talked about by other characters who may or may not be antagonists or villains. It's hard to tell. But there is clearly a lot going on here, and I've got to give the creator a lot of credit for creating a really fully realized world. The problem is that because that world is so deep and so intricate, you're trying to throw it all at us all at once, and we can't handle that. Start small. Start with our main character. Start with somebody in the Tinkin. Start with, apparently there's somebody in here who is a storyteller. Start with that guy and have him building slowly. But starting with essentially the villain and then having the villain talk about things that have... I think this is the villain, at least. I could be wrong. Talking about things that have been going on, I'm losing it. And I had the same feeling about the Free Comic Book Day Squarrior story, which, as a story, again, it just relies too much on all of this knowledge that we are not yet given. So, I think Squarriors has potential. I think it could be a really interesting book, and it is gorgeous. Unquestionably gorgeous. But I also think that as a first issue, it flops desperately because it tells us too much and not enough at the same time. Next. Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas from IDW. Guys, let's chat. Hunter S. Thompson was a journalist of some renown. He invented the concept of gonzo journalism. He wrote a lot of really interesting things, and he was really good at placing himself in the middle of whatever was going on and making himself a part of it and giving a perspective from inside to outsiders. He's done a lot more than Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Just because Johnny Depp made a movie out of it does not mean that is the only thing we can do. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not a bad comic. The art is interesting. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of cartoony. It works really well with the source material. Don't get me wrong. This style is great. The black and white just kind of works out well also. It's got kind of feelings of The Mask. But, you know what? I've seen this story done several times. I've seen it in several mediums. In several media. I'm sick of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. There are other things that start with Fear and Loathing that Hunter S. Thompson has done. Try one of those if you must. But, it's... I'm just gonna, I just went through this reading it in Johnny Depp's voice, cause that's the voice I associate with Thompson. Now I've heard that more than I've heard the actual Thompson, but I've read all of Thompson's stuff. Well, not all of it, but a lot of Thompson's stuff, and I have also, and don't get me wrong, again, this gets the tone right, but that's because it's been done to death. Everybody knows this tone. If you haven't seen the clip about Bat Country, you're missing out on probably one of the most overused clips. And I'm not gonna put that away. No, I'm not gonna use that. Put it away. Everybody uses that clip. It's and the thing is that I respect the idea. I think that taking something like Thompson's work and putting it in a comic book form, this is the ideal medium for Hunter S. Thompson adaptations, more so than film. But you know what? This one has been done to death. Find something else. Because that bores me. Alright, so I told you there was not much this week. We're down to our number one, and it will shock no one that it is DC Universe Rebirth. Now, I tend to try to stay away from the big two on this show. Mostly, I tend to stay away from Marvel more than DC. Just because I know that I tend to be biased toward Marvel, and 9 times out of 10 that will be my favorite of the week. But I gotta give them a lot of credit for this. I'm just gonna join the choir singing the praises of DC's Universe Rebirth on this, because it's what people have been asking for years now. It does honor to its legacy. In fact, the Chapter 2 legacy is my favorite of them. It recognizes that everything that had been built worked. It recognizes the stuff that we grew up on exists. But you know what? I could deal without any of that. I could live with the New 52 if there was a sense of enjoyment to it. And that's what DC has been missing for so long. And you know what? DC Universe Rebirth captures that sense of enjoyment so well. It's beautiful at times. It's heart-wrenching at times. It is fun at times. It is Jeff Johns at his best. I don't know what to say about this that hasn't been said tons of times before, but the art is absolutely astounding. I mentioned Johns. The art is apparently done by everybody. Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea everybody who worked on this. It was a lot of people. Uh, and I'm having trouble finding a splash page. But you know what? It all ties in really well. You're gonna ask, what about the twist at the end? I don't think it's necessary. Honestly, DC is looking for an opportunity to use that property because the property was a self-contained property. And, they did the prequel stuff, but there's only so much they can do on this guaranteed moneymaker. So now they want to throw it into the regular DCU. I'm not sure if it's going to work. And that was kind of the only part of this that didn't sit well with me. Because the entire point of that universe is that heroes are ultimately bad and flawed. That they will destroy things in an effort to save them. That we can't expect hope or goodness. It's very much the ethos of the New 52, which in a way works out to what they say they're kind of doing with this. But how does that then fit into a DCU that is promising us more hope, more goodness, more light? I don't know how they're going to do that. I suppose we'll find out, and we'll find out reasonably soon. But what I will say was that this was refreshing to see. It was good to have it be a part of it. It was good to kind of bring things back to where things went wrong, because there were things in the New 52 I really did like quite a bit, but where things went sideways, that works. It brings it back to where things went sideways and kind of brings it full circle. It stresses the cyclical nature of comic books, especially in large continuities like the Big Two. I loved it. I loved every page of it. I loved reading it. I loved what they're trying to do with it. I loved Ryan Choi. Ryan Choi was in it. They brought in Ryan Choi. That makes me happy. They explained why there's another Wally West. That was a great idea. I loved that. That was such a clever thought. That way we can have both Wally West, because I like the new Wally West as well. He's a great character. He's a lot of fun. He's interesting. I want to see where he goes. So, yeah, that's a simple answer. Yes, I'm being a little bit vague here because I don't want to spoil it for people, but I am going to say that the choices that they make worked. The Aquaman sequence, great. That's what I want to see. That is the kind of stuff that I go to comics to see. DC has got my attention, and I've never been a big DC fan, but DC has gotten my attention with this. I'm buying into it. I've already got several Rebirth titles in my subscription box at my comic shop. So, as long as the distributor doesn't short them my stuff like they've been doing quite often, because, well, long story, but let's just say that there's basically a monopoly on distribution for comic books. As long as that doesn't happen, I'm looking forward to so many of the DC Rebirth titles, and I hope that they live up to the promise that was given to us in DC Universe Rebirth. Alright, like I said, not that much today. Very, very simple, but there you have it. Alright, so while we're here, let's talk about what this week's running theme is. The running theme for this week is alternate reality. No, I'm just kidding. It's not alternate reality. It's illusion. Thank you. Alright, so I don't know how you're going to feel about any of these, but the opinions you just heard were initially mine. Take care.